timeless truth of God's Word. We are WYFI, Norfolk. WYFI presents Insight. The Public Affairs Department of WYFI brings you interviews each week with people who are involved in public service work and vocations that are especially valuable to our area. Insight deals with problems that are of special interest to you. Good afternoon. This is Bob Duckett, your host for today's program, and our topic for discussion this afternoon is crime prevention for school-aged children. And here to talk to us once again is Deputy Bob Walsh, Master Deputy of the Norfolk Sheriff's Department. Good afternoon, Bob.
Hi, Bob. It's a pleasure to be back. I just want to tell the listeners exactly what I am. I am a state certified crime prevention specialist and a ventriloquist for the Norfolk Sheriff's Office, and I coordinate citywide youth crime prevention programs in Norfolk schools. The kids know me as Deputy Bob, and I partner with educators to teach character issues and crime prevention techniques to children from kindergarten through 6th grade.
I understand you're going to have a friend here with you today.
Yes, I am. I brought inmate Joe with me today. He's going to talk about stealing later on. Matthew was here last time. He talked about drug awareness.
And obviously, inmate Joe is a dummy.
Yes.
And how did you first become interested in crime prevention for school-aged children with your ventriloquism?
From living in Norfolk and working as a corrections deputy for the Norfolk Sheriff's Office, I got concerned that juvenile crime could lead to the wrong career path for kids. And from talking with inmates in my duty assignments in the jail, I realized that our children need a positive program from a law enforcement perspective to encourage them to make those good choices. So I wrote my own crime prevention programs from my experiences and received encouragement in this endeavor from Tony Scarangella, who does the voice of McGruff, Take a Bite Out of Crime, and from my wife, Joy, who also provided support.
How does ventriloquism work?
The audience sees two figures, Bob. They see the performer and the dummy. And the performer speaks. Then the audience hears a voice quite different from the voice of the performer, and they see the doll's mouth move while the ventriloquist's mouth remains motionless. And since the faces of the performer and his dummy are so close to each other, they cannot discern the direction of the sound with much accuracy, and they put the evidence together and conclude that the dummy spoke.
What have been some of the high points in your career as crime prevention specialist and ventriloquist?
Doing a live show and hearing audience feedback during and afterward is a real high point, whether it's a small group or a large group. The school principals and teachers and counselors determine what setting is best to meet their needs.
Do you ever think the dummy is alive when you're working with him?
Yes, that's how a professional ventriloquist performs. You want the audience to think that the wood figure can actually see, think, and hear, just like a real person does.
What are your goals in youth crime prevention as a ventriloquist?
To use humor to capture the attention of children and then give them a real good message. Kids write me letters saying that they want to make good choices, and I brought a few of them with me.
Yeah, let's hear some of them.
One child wrote from 5th grade from a school. He said, "I really enjoyed the show. It was more serious than it was funny, because your childhood, that's where it really matters for you to be something." A second letter, "I really enjoyed the program. I thought that was good for all of us kids to teach them what will happen if you steal something." And then the last one, this is really good. They're all good, but this is really good. "It was a serious and a fun way that inmate Joe talked to us. I liked him, and he should have stayed in school. Anyways, you taught me a little bit more about why stealing is bad, and dropping out of school is bad too. I also learned that you should always listen to your parents and not give them a hard time."
What's it like to be a ventriloquist, Deputy Bob?
It's really neat when you're on a stage and you have an auditorium full of kids, and I use the ventriloquism in a unique way to communicate to them, and it's important, I believe, to offer positive values to our kids, contrary to what they see in most television and Hollywood movies. U.S. News and World Report, they reported not too long ago that the average child sees 100,000 acts of violence and 8,000 murders on TV and movies before they finish the 5th grade. So to hear young people interact during an assembly or a classroom program during Choices with Deputy Bob, it's really encouraging.
Have you shared your crime prevention strategies with other law enforcement officers?
Yes, I have. Last April, Tony Scarangella, my partner, and we visited a crime prevention conference sponsored by the Virginia Crime Prevention Association held in Williamsburg. And we had 42 law enforcement and crime prevention-oriented personnel there that attended our workshop, and they made a lot of positive comments afterwards, indicating that the time was well spent.
On the average, how many different schools have you visited during the past 4 years?
Average about 34 schools per year, Bob.
How many programs do you do for each school?
Usually 2, but I'm available for more.
Do you work alone, or do you have some help from other deputies in this program?
No, I have a partner who is an auxiliary deputy. His name is Tony Scarangella. He does the voice of McGruff. And Tony was the voice of the Crime Crusader long before McGruff was even heard of. In recent years, he's been recognized as the man behind McGruff that says, take a bite out of crime. The reason he's not with me today is because he's been very ill the last 6 months. Additionally, my wife has been a big support. She's illustrated a coloring book that's become so popular that Sheriff McCabe has a contract to print 5,000 a year. In fact, they're going to increase it to 7,000 this year because it's getting even more popular.
Where do you get the clothes for your dummies?
My wife altered the deputy sheriff outfit for Matthew, and she made inmate Joe's outfit, and the other one came from a store. And their characters, well, you heard inmate Joe mention, and you'll hear him at the end, but I also have Jeremiah. He's a student, and Matthew, who's a deputy. He was on here before.
What type exercises are helpful to be a successful and professional ventriloquist?
I use hand grips for string control. It keeps my muscles toned in my fingers so I can synchronize the movement of the dummy's mouth and eyes and eyebrows to the various situations. In particular, though, I pay close attention to the spoken word. The mouth is the most important because you want the mouth to be in flow with the words that are coming out, so it looks like he's saying them. I also practice 3 voices out loud. I alternate them to keep my voice in shape with my different characters because I have 3, and I have 3 different voices when I rehearse my scripts, or if I'm just rehearsing the voices. And then lastly, I use creative writing for script writing, and I also write my own public affairs and letters. I have mail-outs twice a year to the schools.
This afternoon, we're talking to Master Deputy Bob Walsh from the Norfolk Sheriff's Department. And Deputy Bob, why don't you give out your phone number so that the people who are listening to the program and want to have you come in and talk to them can get in touch with you?
My number is 664-4697, and I work from kindergarten through 6th grade. So that's 664-4697.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. And folks, we will be giving that number again at the end of the program. And in a few minutes, we'll be talking to Deputy Bob's partner for today, inmate Joe. But back to the story, Deputy Bob, how long does it take to write and perfect a script?
It takes several months, Bob. First, I get an idea and I write it, and then I proofread it, and then I make edits, and then I get some feedback from people, and I make more changes, and then I actually deliver the presentation, and then after I deliver it, I modify it again to fit a live audience.
Okay. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you with your experience as a ventriloquist?
The funniest thing that ever happened was when I was in the Navy. I was doing an outdoor program overseas in the Philippines at an orphanage, and I found this out afterward. After my performance, I found out that when I was doing this show, the teachers and workers thought I had a cassette tape in the hollow of the dummy's back. See, they had never seen a ventriloquist before until my visit. When my act was interrupted repeatedly by a loudmouthed street vendor, my dummy turned around and told him to be quiet because he couldn't hear himself think. It was at this point that the teachers and the workers realized that this ventriloquist was the real thing and not a recording.
What has been the biggest surprise as a crime prevention specialist and ventriloquist?
The biggest surprise is 2 things, Bob. Getting national exposure in the Sheriff's Times as a crime prevention specialist was one, so we could share a community policing strategy with other sheriff's departments across the United States. And the second one was as a ventriloquist, and when I was in the Navy, making front page news on the West Australian newspaper. That was the thrill.
At this point in our program, we're going to bring in Inmate Joe. Go ahead, Deputy Bob, and introduce Inmate Joe.
Hey, how you doing there, kids?
Hi, kids. I'm Deputy Bob. Did you know that a thief takes things that don't belong to him? Ever wonder how a person becomes a thief? You're about to find out from today's lesson. Inmate Joe, what was school like when you were their age?
When I was their age, kids called me a fool for staying in school, so I quit.
Anybody who tells you to quit school is a real fool.
Well, be cool. Dropped out of school was the in thing when I was their age.
So you dropped out of school?
That's what I did, all right. I dropped right out of school.
What did your parent or guardian think about you doing that, dropping out?
Oh, they didn't like it. They were mad at me. Then I did what I wanted to do, you know. I listened to my friends, or at least kids I thought were my friends. They said, be cool, dropped out of school. So I said, yeah, I'm going to get out of here. And I got out of there.
Too bad you didn't listen to your parent or guardian. Those that loved you tried to guide you by staying in school.
When I was their age, you know what I thought?
What?
I thought my parents were the enemies. When they put me under restriction, I'd steal things to get back at them.
Stealing is wrong, Inmate Joe.
Well, stealing is like lying, you know. You start out telling little lies and end up telling big lies, you know.
Is that why your nose is so large like Pinocchio?
That's probably right. Your nose would look like 902 if it got busted up 6 times.
Busted up 6 times? How'd it get broken that many times?
Well, I'm a thief. I steal things that don't belong to me, and sometimes I get caught. And the owner dusts me right in the nose. Oh, it hurts getting your nose dusted.
If it hurts so much, then stop stealing things that don't belong to you.
Well, that's all I know how to do is steal things.
What kind of things do you steal?
Well, anything I can carry away, like hats, jackets, stereos, and things like that.
Stealing is wrong, Inmate Joe.
It's too late to change now. That's all I know how to do.
Why is that?
Because I quit school. I don't know how to read and write, you know.
Yeah, that's sad, Joe.
Well, it is sad. But I got to tell you something. I kind of wish I had stayed home and obeyed the house rules. I never realized I had it so good until I left.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it's hard living out there in the street, you know. It gets cold in the winter and it's hot in the summertime, you know. And I didn't have any food to eat or anything. No bedroom, no bed, no house. So I joined the gang.
Oh, man, another bad choice.
Yeah, it was another bad choice, all right. And I had to steal things to get money because I didn't have any money to buy food, you know.
But stealing is wrong, Joe.
I know it's wrong, but that's all I know how to do, you know, because I quit school.
Inmate Joe, you got to change your ways.
It's too late to change now. You know what I'm going to do when I get out?
What are you going to do when you get out of jail, Joe?
I'm going to go back and steal some more.
Joe, I'd have a battle of wits with you, but I hate to fight an unarmed man.
Well, you're saying that there. That's all I know how to do, you know, there, Deputy Dodd. There.
You need to go back to school. You need to change your ways. You need to have the want to change.
Well, I don't know if I want to change. I hate school.
Look, you can pay now, kids, or pay later by doing your homework and obeying the house rules, or you can be a thief like Inmate Joe. It's your choice.
It's a good choice, I guess, staying in school. I wish I had stayed in school, but I can't do nothing else.
Deputy Bob and Inmate Joe, we have about 30 seconds left. Why don't you give our listeners a few last thoughts, including your phone number?
Okay, the phone number is 664-4697. And I have one comment to the listeners and to Inmate Joe. It's never too late to change. You can always go back to school. He's wasted many years in his life because of making bad choices. And we don't want you to make bad choices like Inmate Joe. So stay in school, listen to your parents and those that love you, and you'll make choices that will make yourself happy and not choices that will make yourself sad, like Inmate Joe being a thief.
Master Deputy Bob Walsh from the Sheriff's Department in Norfolk and Inmate Joe, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon.
Our pleasure, Bob.
This has been Insight, an informal, informative interview with one of our community leaders. Insight is a public affairs program of WYFI.
Master Deputy Robert J. Walsh was a sworn officer for 20 years at the Norfolk Sheriff's Office and is now retired. Inmate Joe is still on his thieving, stealing ways. Recently, he has been apprehended trying to be a fugitive from the law. He was arrested at the Great Wall of China in Beijing. Oh, Joe.